In this class, we're going to talk about mean deviation. What exactly do we mean by mean deviation? Mean deviation, in simple terms, refers to the mean of the deviation of the individual items of a distribution from the measure of their central tendency. Don't forget, in our previous class, we discussed the range and I explained what is meant by measure of dispersion. So here is another term on measure of dispersion. We have the range, we have the semi-quartile, we have the mean deviation, we have the standard deviation, we have variance, you understand? So when we talk about the deviation of the mean of the scores or individual items from the measure of their central tendency, we are talking about mean deviation, you understand? Okay, now let's quickly talk about the steps in calculating mean deviation. What are the steps that you have to take note? Now, if you are asked to calculate the mean deviation of an ungroup data, the first step is that you have to determine the mean of the distribution. Are you paying attention? That's the first step. The second step is that you have to compute the deviation of the mean of each item. The third step, multiply each deviation with its corresponding frequency, and then add this deviation together, then divide the sum of the deviation by the total numbers of frequency that you have. You understand? The total numbers of sample that you have. Okay, so now I want you to pay attention. Let's start with first example. Calculate the mean deviation of 42, 43, 45, and 46. You are asked to calculate the mean deviation of 42, 42, 43, 45, and 46. Okay, now don't forget that I gave you the first step. The first step is that you have to determine the mean of the distribution. Mean is given by this formula. The mean of the distribution now is, okay, let's call this samples x. So the mean of x is equals to sum more the value, summation x all over n. You understand? So here I'm going to have 42 plus 43 plus 45 plus 46 all over the n is the total numbers of samples that we have, or the total numbers of scores, or the total numbers of items. Okay, so n here will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to add this over 4. Now 42 plus 43 plus 45 plus 46, that is 176. So here I'm going to have 176 all over 4. Okay, so the mean of the distribution is 44, because if you divide 176 by 4, you're going to have 44. So the mean is 44. Okay, now having gotten the mean, you have to calculate the deviation. You understand? The deviation is the difference between the mean, the difference between the scores and the mean that we have. You understand? This is the deviation. You know, this is the mean. The deviation is this formula. Deviation is equals to x minus mean. Okay, where x is the samples that we have in our distribution. You understand? So here, let us compute the deviation. The deviation is equals to, now we have 42. Please pay attention. Okay, 42, that will be 42 minus 44. You can do this on the table. You understand? You can do this on the table, but well, if you want us to use table, we are going to have something like this. We are going to have x minus mean. If you want us to use table, you can do this using the table. We are going to have 42, 43, 45, 46. But this kind of question usually come out, I think that should be objective. It's an objective question, so there's no need of using table, but I want you to understand. That's why I make use of table. Okay, so now the deviation is what? X minus x bar. So that means that I'm going to take each x. X is the sample, so I'm going to have 42 minus 44. That will be what? Negative 2. So I'm going to have negative 2 here. For this, I'm going to have 43 minus 44, because the mean is what? X bar is what? 44. You understand? And the deviation. Okay, let me put it on the top. This is the deviation. Okay, x minus x bar is the deviation. So 43 minus 44, that is what? Negative 1. Okay, so 45 minus 44, that is 1. 46 minus 44, that is what? 2. You understand? So having taken the deviation, you have to take the absolute value of the deviation. Absolute value simply means neglecting the signs. For example, let's say we want to take the absolute value of, I'm just looking for where I can just put an example, okay? Let's say you want to take if A equals to -4, the absolute value of A is what? 4. You are not going to consider the sign again, okay? So if you have B equals to -5, the absolute value of B is equals to 5. This sign that you see means absolute value, you understand? So now, let's say we have a positive number. If C equals to 5, the absolute value of C is still equals to 5, you understand? Okay, so now, when we take the absolute value of a number, it becomes, let me just say, positive, okay? If it is positive before, it still remains positive. If it is negative, it becomes positive, you understand? So I'm going to take the absolute value of B. Absolute value of the deviation. The reason why I want to take the absolute value is that, you know, we have some deviation here that is negative, you understand? So I need to take the deviation so that this, by the time I take the deviation, the negative sign is not going to be there again, okay? So here I'm going to have the absolute value of -2 now will be what? Will be 2. Absolute value of 1 is what? 1. Absolute value of 1 is also 1. Absolute value of 2 is what? 2. Do you understand? Okay, so having taken the absolute value of the deviation, the next step is that you have to multiply each deviation with its corresponding frequency. Now, you know that this is an ungrouped data, so we didn't have frequency. All the frequencies as 1. You understand? All the frequencies of this sample, frequency tells us the numbers of time our samples repeat themselves. You understand? The numbers of time each sample repeats itself is what we call the frequency. Now you can see that all the samples are 1. You understand? So they occur as one time. So in this case, all the frequencies are 1. By the time I take the product of the deviation and the frequency of each sample, I'm still going to have something like this. So when you are dealing with ungrouped data, it doesn't really matter taking the frequency, unless if it is group. If it is group, you need to take the product, okay? But this is an ungrouped data, so there is no need of taking the product because the product is also the same thing as the deviation that we're going to have, okay? So now, the next step is that you have to sum this deviation together, you understand? So, let me cleanse this. So we have to sum this deviation. We have to sum this deviation. So if you sum this, I'm going to have 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2. That is what? 6. So here I'm going to have 6. Let me go. So the sum of the deviation is 6. Now, the next step is that you have to divide the sum of this deviation by the total numbers of samples or the total numbers of data that you have in your data set. You understand? So here I'm having 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, and the sum of the deviation, please pay attention. Mean deviation is equals to sum of deviation all over n. Do you understand? That is the formula for ungrouped data, okay? For ungrouped data, let me just put absolute value, okay? Remember the absolute value. So, I've already summed all the absolute value for the deviation. That is what? 6. So, I'm going to have 6 all over n. N is the total numbers of samples that we have. So, I'm going to have 6 all over 4. So here, what is the value of the mean deviation? 4 divided by 6 is what? That is 3 all over 2. 3 over 2 is what? 1.5. So here I'm going to have 1.5. That is the correct answer. Okay? So I'm very sure you understood how to calculate the mean deviation of an ungrouped data now. So let me quickly give you a question here. I want to try this question. Calculate the mean deviation of 2, 8, 5, 7, and 3. Calculate the mean deviation of 2, 8, 5, 7, and 3. Okay? I'm just going to, let me erase this, okay? Let us erase this as well. Let us erase this. So, I want to pause this video, attempt the question, then play the video to check maybe your answer is correct. The goal is to calculate the mean deviation of 2, 8, 5, 7, and 3. 2, 8, 5, 7, and 3. You understand? Okay? Now, don't forget that mean deviation is what? Summation for ungrouped data now, okay? Mean deviation is the summation of the deviation all over sum of the absolute value of the deviation all over n. And deviation is what? X minus mean. where x are the samples that we have. So I need to first calculate the mean, okay? So mean is given by what? Summation x all over n. So that means I'm going to sum all these values together. 2 plus 8 plus 5 plus 7 plus 3, okay? All over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All over 5. Do you understand how I got this? Okay? Now, if you have all those values together, you're going to have 25. So here, I'm going to have 25 all over 5. So that means I'm having 5 as the mean, okay? Now, the reason I just want to erase this so that as to make use of the same table, okay? So I've not done anything. Okay, so let us put our x. Our x are 2, 8, 5, 7, and 3, okay? And mean is what? 5. Our mean is 5. So we need to compute the deviation, okay? The deviation is what? X minus mean. Now, x is 2. If I want to get the value for these cells, I'm going to set 2 minus 5, okay? So I'm going to have negative 3. 8 minus 5, that is 3. 5 minus 5, that is 0. 7 minus 5, that is 2. 3 minus 5, that's negative 2. Do you understand? Okay, now I need to take the absolute value. The absolute value of negative 3 is what? 3. 3, 0, 2, 2. You understand? Now, I want to sum all this together. 3 plus 3, that is what? Okay, let me do this so that you won't be confused. Okay, now sum all the deviation together. Sum the absolute value of the deviation. I'm going to have 3 plus 3, that is 6. 6 plus 2, 8. 8 plus 2, 10. So, mean deviation is equals to sum of deviation, that is 10 all over n. N is the total numbers of samples. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So n is 5. 2. That is the correct answer. Sum of deviation, let me put it. 10. So, I'm very sure you can do this in a twinkling of eye if you come across this question in the exam. Thank you for watching the class. I really appreciate you. And if you have any question regarding this, let me know in the comment section, okay? And also don't forget to like and share the video. To be part of this channel, you can consider subscribing, but if you don't want to be part, but I just urge you, please kindly like the video because I'm very sure you will have gained 1 or 2 things, and share the video to your friends. See you in the next class.